To all who come to this happy place, welcome. Disneyland is your land. Here age relives fond memories of the past. And here youth may savor the challenge and promise of the future. Disneyland is dedicated to the ideals, the dreams, and the hard facts that have created America.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Explore the Mouse Podcast, a podcast by Disney lovers for Disney lovers. Come join us as we dive into the wonderful world of Disney. Here is your host, Eric Augustus.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Explore the Mouse Podcast. I'm your host, Eric Lagaikis, and I am back alongside my beautiful wife, Casey.
Hi, guys.
Casey took a little 1 week hiatus, and that's why I had my sister on last week to talk about Tokyo Disney.
Sorry, guys. But in all fairness, your sister was chomping at the bit to be on.
Absolutely. So. and
I'm not ditching you guys.
And since we've never been to Tokyo Disney,
yeah,
it kind of made sense to kind of give her the reins of the podcast and let her kind of run free with it. And she did.
For sure.
And she gave some great information just about the popcorn buckets and the food and just everything else. It was actually a really cool, informative podcast. And Katie will be back on eventually. She we talked afterwards, and she really wants to come back on and talk a little bit more. So
yeah,
eventually we'll have kind of all three of us, which I think will be a fun dynamic.
Yeah, we'll have to do like an episode live from the parks or even from a resort if we go soon.
That'd be so much fun.
We've all been talking about it.
Well, I have the cool thing about the host that I use for this podcast is that I actually have like a mobile studio. So I can take, basically our app, and we can get like some wireless microphones, and we could actually do something live from the park.
Yeah. Or even if we just did it from the resort, from our room one night.
I mean, that would be fun too, but I think it'd be really cool to kind of sit down like in the middle of like Magic Kingdom somewhere and, just do a fun podcast. But hopefully we'll get that done with Katie, but Katie will definitely be back on this podcast, so we're excited. But
for sure.
We're going to have some Disney news, but today's episode, we are talking about Epcot's pavilions, and we're specifically visiting Japan and France.
So this is going to be the episode where Casey and Eric mispronounce everything.
Yes. And also the episode where Casey probably points out that I gave up a job working for Disney at France Pavilion.
Oh my God, I actually had this conversation with myself this morning, and I was like, okay, you're not gonna bring it up. You're not gonna be that person, because I've already brought it up in one of the episodes. I don't remember which one it was.
Yeah, but you love to bring it up every time.
The Festival of the Arts.
Festival of the Arts, that's right.
But I was like, I'm not going to bring it up. But you brought it up, so yeah, we'll talk about it when we get there.
Yeah. Because that is, as you guys know, we'll talk about it later, but it's a mess. But we're going to be talking about, and Japan is probably my favorite pavilion out of all of them.
Behind Germany for me, but it's in my top two.
I love Germany for the beer and the food, but I love Japan for the whole experience. Okay, if that makes sense.
And we'll touch that.
We'll touch base on that. We'll talk about all of our favorite things that are inside Japan.
Yeah, because we spend a lot of time in Japan.
We do.
Yeah.
I mean, we usually
every time we go, we spend a chunk of our time in Japan.
I think Japan is probably the one area that we literally walk through every store, and not just walk, but we actually spend time looking at all the cool things. Last year we discovered, we knew it was there, but we never went in there. But
why don't you save the meat for when we get there?
We'll save that. He's got
all these things he wants.
All right. Well, let's talk about some news real quick, because there is a lot of Disney news. And if you guys are on the West Coast right now, Disneyland just started their Food and Wine Festival, which I've never been to their Food and Wine Festival. I don't know if you have or not.
I have never participated, not knowingly. I might have gone during college when it was going on. But
I don't. It's not as big as Epcot's.
Yeah.
But it's along the same lines. I mean, you walk around from different booths. You eat different food from all these different places and all these different chefs. They have celebrity cooking. Guy Fieri is actually going to be there doing a bunch of cooking demos for people, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
And then I think one of the coolest things that they announced for this is that you can sign up and you could actually have basically dinner with Disney Imagineers and Disney chefs. So you can pay and you can sit down and actually have one-on-one conversations with Imagineers and chefs and kind of see what the inside of like working with Disney is like. So I think that's a really cool experience that they provide and allow you to do. So if you're on the West Coast, head over to Disneyland, and I believe it's over in California Adventure. They have their Food and Wine Festival going on right now. Some big news this week is Captain Marvel's coming out.
Yes.
So ever since, what is it? Infinity War?
Yeah.
Ever since Infinity War, at the very end credits, as most people know, if you wait to the end of the credits, there's always like an extra scene that usually gives an Easter egg.
Yes.
And this year's Easter egg was Captain Marvel's symbol. So Captain Marvel comes out, and then just a few months after this, Endgame comes out. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure she's going to play a huge part in that, but I'm curious to see how they intertwine Captain Marvel into the Marvel Universe.
I'm sure. I mean, I'm curious to see, but I'm sure it's going to be so cool. They do such a good job with all of them.
Well, they do because, the thing is, Captain Marvel is going to play a huge part. I'm guessing based on comics.
Yeah.
In the Endgame movie.
Right.
Because Captain Marvel is the most powerful like superhero in that Marvel universe. Like she has so much power and ability. So I'm really excited to see that movie this week.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully, as if we can find someone to watch the baby for like 3 hours.
She's little enough. She just sleeps anyway.
Well, just give her a bottle and she'll be good. But
yeah.
So we definitely want to go see this and report back on like what we think about it. But it's going to be really, really cool. In some other Disney news, Jesse's Critter Carousel over at Pixar Pier is finally open.
Yay!
It's been under construction for a while now. Actually, I think the carousel was one of the first things that was under construction when we were there. So because when we were there, the carousel was not open.
I know it wasn't.
And I believe it was under construction for this whole revamp of Pixar Pier, but Jesse's Critter Carousel is officially open.
Exciting.
And the last thing that I want to kind of share with you guys too, if you haven't seen it yet, is there's a great video out there that does a behind the scenes kind of sneak peek with director Tim Burton for the new Dumbo movie. And they interview a lot of the cast and characters, and they give you some behind the scenes of filming. And there's some really cool information in there that got me even more excited for this movie than what the trailer provided.
Here's my thing with Dumbo. I'm so excited, but I'm also like, I don't know that I can go. I feel like I'm going to cry through the whole thing. I cry during the trailers. I mean, I do.
Yeah.
Granted, the first time the trailer came out, I was like 7 or 8 months pregnant. So I cried through that the whole time. And now I don't know. I just cry through the trailers. It looks so beautiful, and it looks like it's going to be so good. And of course I will see it. I'm not going to not see it. But I just feel like I'm going to subject myself to knowing that I'm going to cry through the whole movie.
They have done a great job at kind of, especially for people that love nostalgia.
Right.
They've done a good job of kind of keeping that nostalgia of Dumbo alive.
For sure.
But with also giving you an intrigue into Tim Burton's world.
Right.
Of going, okay, this is going to be over the top cool.
And I love his stuff. I know some people say he's, overrated sometimes. I love how weird and creepy and artistic he is. He does some phenomenal work.
He's
so
probably my favorite
to
director.
See what he does with this.
Yeah, he's probably my favorite director. And there's a really cool photo of him on the caboose, the Casey Jr. caboose.
Jr.
Yeah. So
it's my caboose.
Your caboose. So go check it out. It's a really cool behind the scenes that you can check out from it. And you can pretty much go to YouTube and just type it in and you'll find it. But anyways, let's get to the World Showcase because there's a lot of information to get to, and we don't want to go over on any time. But let's start in France. I think I want to end on Japan.
Okay.
So let's go to France real quick. And we'll do this simply because it's the nearest one to our new favorite entrance into Epcot. That's the International Gateway.
Yes.
So France is... I'll be honest, France is not an area that we have spent a ton of time in. France is kind of one of those areas that we definitely have gone to. We've eaten we've eaten from some of the places. We sat in like the little square, I guess you can say, and just kind of enjoyed the view. Obviously, like one of my favorite things is the guys that do the balancing chairs.
Oh, they're the best.
So like usually when we go there,
it's one of those, like, I can't stop looking, but I want to look away, but I can't stop looking.
But it is definitely a cool thing to kind of, we come over from England with a beer in our hand, and we'll just go and sit and watch the guys do the balancing chairs and like the little street shows.
Yeah.
It's just, I've never been to Paris, but it definitely kind of gives you that immersive feel, like you're in the streets of Paris.
You can feel the atmosphere. You can totally feel the atmosphere, and it feels like, minus the rain, what it would be like. Also, the streets are a lot bigger in the pavilion than they are.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So like sidewalks.
But France is definitely one of like the most unique spots, especially when it comes to the food, and
drinks. They have great wines.
Oh yeah, and drinks too. I mean, whenever you think of like the French, you think of wines mostly. They're not known for their beers or anything. They're known for wine. Well, they have
that little wine shop. You can even do wine tasting.
See, which we never have done. We should probably do that sometime. I think it'd be fun.
We've talked about it, but we're always too busy with our beer from England.
Well, yeah, because usually, and just to kind of give you a guide, usually when we go into World Showcase, I don't know why, but for some reason we always start to the right in Canada.
We always do.
And usually we spend some time in Canada, but then we breeze right to England and we get some beers.
Yeah. And
then we'll usually peruse through the rest of the countries, and then we'll stop again in Germany. So that's kind of usually how we probably need to switch that up.
We're such creatures of habit.
Get a different routine. But yeah, so, when we get to France, at that point we usually have a beer, so we really are not in the mood to go drink anything, especially wine.
But we do go to that wine shop and like walk around and look at the bottles and
stuff.
Oh
yeah, because it's really cool, and they got some awesome bottles of wine, and I love wine. Sure. We're big wine people. And they have some great bottles of wine, and even some like really expensive bottles, from some
of course
amazing vineyards in France. So it is a really cool place to check out, and like the food is amazing, and I love French cuisine. That's actually where I kind of learned a lot of my training from. So when I started cooking, I learned a lot of French cuisine, and that's kind of like my original love, I guess you can say, is French food. It's kind of like the food of the soul.
Yeah.
And I think one of the coolest things too is the actual the Eiffel Tower that's in the background. Now it's not a full size Eiffel Tower, but a little bit of Disney magic kind of comes in, and they make basically like a replica, but they scale it kind of like Cinderella's castle. They scale the Eiffel Tower so it looks like it's off in the. It's really, really cool.
Yeah.
But I think one of the coolest things is the upcoming Ratatouille ride.
This is your okay. Well, the Ratatouille is like one of your favorite movies.
Yes.
So
it is my favorite movie. Well, besides
something you're so excited for.
Oh yeah. And in the Ratatouille ride, I've watched all the videos from Paris Disneyland,
right?
Because that's where the ride is originated from, and it's a really cool trackless system, and they kind of shrink you down to the size of Remy, and you're basically kind of going through Remy's world, Well,
if you guys have listened for a while, you've heard me say before that Eric is like a Mr. Researcher, so he is like. He watches the videos of all the rides before he goes and things like that. Excuse me. And he has to, oh my goodness. He has to watch like trailers for things before he sees things. And I am always like, no, I just give you the element of surprise. Like, I don't want to research the restaurants that are there or what the ride's going to look like or what the movie's going to be about until I go to whatever it is. But I will say this is one that I caught Eric watching the video one day, and I sat down and watched with him. It was the video of it, the actual one in Paris. It is so cool. Like,
oh yeah,
yeah. So I'm genuinely excited about this now, knowing what it is.
And it's just not
that I ever lose my excitement not knowing what it is.
No, but I think the one thing that World Showcase like is missing is like rides, like attractions.
Right.
And they have Frozen, which used to be Maelstrom.
Right.
So they have Frozen, which has been a ride there for a while now.
Yeah.
But they're like, that's one thing they're definitely missing. Oh, and I forgot, you got the boat ride that does the Three Caballeros over at Mexico.
Oh yeah.
But it's just a boat ride. It's not like an attraction.
There is something in France. It's like a
they got Circle Vision.
Video. Yeah.
Yeah, so they have Circle Vision over in France, which it's similar to. I'm sorry, no, not Circle Vision. It's Impressions of France. Circle Vision is over in China.
Yeah, but it's not like a. To me, that's not a ride. That's like. But they call it
an attraction.
They call it an attraction.
Yeah, it's an attraction show because you're going in there and you're learning about the cultures.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing with like Circle Vision in China or the show over in Canada.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I think is awesome because it's narrated by Martin Short.
I forgot about that.
But yeah, so like it's more of like you want to go in and you want to learn about the cultures of those countries. You go into these shows and they're really cool. Don't get me wrong. I think they're really, really cool. But for me, it's not, I don't go to Epcot to say I want to go watch Impressions of France.
Ride. Yeah. We just bunny trailed. But back to, what were we talking about?
Ratatouille.
Ratatouille. Like, wait, that's not what we were talking about. Yeah, no, this is going to be like an actual ride, like the Frozen ride is.
And the building's huge. If you haven't been to Epcot at all since they started building it, it's on the backside and it is like gigantic.
We saw it when we came in on the boat.
Yeah.
We had taken it from the boardwalk over to the like World Showcase entrance of Epcot, which is our favorite way to enter Epcot.
Yeah. And the cool thing too is that when the gondolas open, and if you guys haven't seen the video, they have been testing the gondolas like crazy. And
cool.
It looks like they actually have all the gondolas on the wires now, and they're just running them and testing them over and over and over again. But the cool thing is that when the gondolas do officially open and you're coming from any of those resorts or Hollywood studios, is you could actually fly right over the backside of France. So you'll get like a cool backstage glimpse of the France Pavilion, the Ratatouille ride, and even that Eiffel Tower that I was telling you about. Oh, yeah. And it's a big building, and it has to be because I'll provide a link in our social media accounts, and I might even do a blog about it, just about all the different stuff coming. But if you look at the video from the Paris ride, it's a pretty big building. Like ride, it's not like it's not like a small ceiling. I mean, it's a pretty tall.
Well,
because
to do it on the scale that you are talking about, where it does make you feel like you're the size of a rat in a big city, you have to.
And it's a combination. And the ride is a combination of like video screens and actual props. So the props are like built like pretty big.
Yeah.
Kind of reminds me of the Honey I Shrunk the Kids that they took down from Hollywood Studios.
Rest in peace.
Yeah, rest in peace. That was a really cool thing.
Bugs Land was better, but
yeah. But Remy's Ratatouille Adventure is I'm highly I'm more excited about that I think than Star Wars sometimes, and I know that's a bold statement.
Wow.
But I love Ratatouille and I love Epcot, and I just think it's going to be such a cool thing.
Yeah.
Another thing too that's coming too is it's not really an attraction like type of ride, but they also have Beauty and the Beast sing along too. So
in Paris?
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Or France?
Yeah. So they announced it at the Destination D event.
Oh.
The D23 Destination D.
Yeah.
They announced it there that they're going to be adding a show to the France Pavilion, which is going to be the sing along, which is going to be, from what I understand, is going to be similar to the Frozen.
Okay.
That's over in Hollywood Studios.
I'm in. I'll do it.
So I think it'll be really, because it's like, from what I understand, it's supposed to be like a stage show, and that's the building that Remy's Adventure is in.
Yeah.
Is actually going to be
like
housing.
Yeah. Space. Okay.
So you're going to have the ride in that, and the building's also going to house like the part of the show.
Kids are going to be so confused why they're in France and everybody's talking in an English accent.
Well,
I'm totally kidding.
Well,
Kids
you got
never, I
Lumiere.
never put that together.
Lumiere won't.
Yeah, there you go.
So he'll be our little French connection.
No, I think that's very exciting. That's cool.
Yeah.
Those are two like really cool things coming to Epcot, and that they're both coming to France. That's pretty cool.
Oh yeah, I think and I'll definitely do it because the Frozen sing along in Hollywood Studios.
Oh, we love it.
I'll be honest, I didn't really want to do it that one time we went, but it was a really short wait. I think it was like a 5 minutes of the show started, and we walked right in.
Yeah.
And it was actually really fun. It had all the characters, and so I think the Beauty and the Beast is going to be similar to that.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for that to come out. But let's talk about some food.
Okay.
Because again, France
You're gonna
has
know a little more than I will.
Yeah.
On this one.
France has some of the best food, like I said.
Yeah.
And it all depends on your palate too, because not many people love French food. Because French food does have some French food does have some weird stuff. Like, when we do the Food and Wine Festival, one of the main things that we go for is the escargot. Most people don't think about eating snails. We do. Especially when they're smothered in cheese.
Cooked in butter all day long.
Cooked in butter, smothered in a French cheese.
I'll take it all day.
Yeah, we're not going to complain about that. But one of the biggest restaurants that you can go there is Le Chef de France. Le Chef de France is, I'll point it out, this is the restaurant that I was supposed to work in.
Womp womp.
Womp womp. And every time we go there, Casey usually makes me take a picture in front of the menu just to kind of...
No, you're making me sound like a mean wife. I only made you do it once. I bring it up every time we go, but I made you take a picture once.
Either way, it's the same thing.
I'll see
but
if I have that picture, guys, and I'll put it on my social media.
It's somewhere. It's somewhere on your phone.
I think in my old archives of ye old Snapchat.
Oh, that's right. I think, we did. Because that's when we discovered that you could
that was before
take
Instagram
photos on
stories
Snapchat.
Came to life.
So, chefs, what?
I just went to go to my Snapchat and I logged myself out, and I don't know, I haven't used it in
good job.
forever. Anyways, sorry guys.
So, Chefs de France is it's lunch and dinner. There's no breakfast there. If you are there early enough and you want breakfast, I'll get to some of those places as well. They're open from noon to 9 p.m. And you can use your table service credit on it.
I think you have to use 2 on this one, right? No.
You know what? I'm not 100% sure.
Hold on, I can tell you.
I think you do.
I can
because this is one of their.
No, sorry. It's Monsieur Paul.
Oh, Monsieur Paul. Okay,
that's the one you have to use 2 dining
credits. Okay,
I knew. A little fancier.
Yeah, I knew the more fancier ones you have to use 2 credits on, but the menu that you can get over at Chef de France, it's your typical French cuisine. You got lobster bisque, you got your escargot that we were talking about. You got your cheese boards, baked goat cheese salad, all those typical things you would find. Beef bourguignon. That's probably the most safest food that you can eat if you want to go eat French food. And it's basically just beef that's braised in Cabernet. So.
No, I'm all about the snails. Give me the snails.
Well, I love that too. But then, they got their other stuff like duck breast.
No, I get it.
And that's the thing about French food is that French food is really, how would I call it? It's very adventurous. Ooh. You have to, if you're going to eat French food, you have to...
Oh, you have to, expand your palate. You have to be open to new things.
Oh, yeah.
You might get a plate with a fish with its eyes bulging out at you. You have to be open to that. Well,
you can get that anywhere, though. You can get that at an Italian...
But it's a little more...
Well, that's true.
I don't know.
But I'm not going to lie. I love French food. So if you love it, I would definitely give this place a try. Their menu prices, they're typical about Disney, prices. They're in that, I would say, $25 to $40 range for, most entrees.
Yeah.
So their desserts, and that's the thing, French desserts are amazing. French chocolate. Oh, it's so good. But yeah. So anyways, and they do have a kids menu too. So if you have kids and you're worried about, kids eating, stuff that they don't they have it there. Anyways, so one of the places I wanted to tell you about too is I mentioned like if you get there early and you wanted to like get some breakfast like early in the day, they have a amazing bakery there. And again, we already said that we're gonna probably destroy most names that we pronounce, but Les Haus Boulanger Pasterie.
I'm not even looking at anything, and I can tell you said that wrong.
Oh, I totally said that wrong. The only thing I said right was the lait.
You got Paris.
I got Paris.
I mean, I don't know anything, so again, this whole episode is just us mispronouncing things,
destroying
names, disrespectful.
But this place, they have like classic French quiches, so you can go get some really good like breakfast quiche Lorraine, quiche Florentine, stuff like that. They have a thing called, it's a bacon and cheese roll. That I could pronounce that.
Okay.
Roulade et fromage is what it's called.
Yeah.
I did say that properly, just not with the greatest flair.
I don't think you pronounced the T in the E-T.
I don't know. But they do have the most delicious croque monsieur that you can get. Monsieur?
Again, I don't know. I could be making it
Anyways,
up.
and what that is that's just a really good like toasted ham and cheese sandwich, and they usually put cheese on top and melt the cheese over the top of the sandwich.
That's
so
one of
good.
my favorite things.
I'd probably call it like an inside-out grilled cheese almost. Would you agree? Kind of. But yeah, they have so many cool things. Really good desserts, parfaits, macaroons, French macaroons, which is one of Casey's
There's a difference.
favorite. Well, there is a difference. What's the other macaroon?
Well, there's macaroons, which are those
almost weird
like
cookies.
A little shell. Yeah, it's kind of like a soft baked cookie, and then there's French macarons.
Those are disgusting. I'm not a big fan of them at all. But we'll see. And by the way, if for some reason Casey disappears off the microphone for a couple minutes, we are trying to listen out for the baby who's sleeping. So this is a real life, podcast, ladies and gentlemen. This is like real life here. We don't have a fancy studio.
Sorry, our budget doesn't allow for a nanny. Our podcast budget doesn't allow for a nanny during podcast episodes.
Yeah, so we have to we have to go with the flow. So if Casey disappears off the microphone and you just hear me talking by myself, it's because she went to go check on the baby. But yeah, so some of the other places, and this is what Casey was telling you about, where you have you could use your two dinner credits,
Monsieur Paul's,
which I've actually done before, not here, but I've used it at other restaurants before. Where I've actually used two dinner credits to go eat at Citricos, was the last place over in Grand Floridian. But you can go eat at Monsieur Paul, which is the upscale signature dining restaurant over at Epcot France Pavilion. And theirs is a little pricier. So if you don't,
it's upscale.
Yeah. So if you don't have the dining credits, you are prepared to pay. You're probably going to pay for two people well over $100 after you leave.
Well, you're going to an upscale dining restaurant.
Yeah,
so.
and I think anytime you do that, when we ate at the beer garden, we knew that it was going to be close to $150 meal. We knew that from the very beginning, so we planned ahead. And this restaurant's actually only open from 5:30 to 8:35. It's literally only open for 3 hours.
What?
Yeah. So it's and the one thing about Monsieur Paul is that it is very. I don't know. I'm pronouncing it wrong. The one thing about this place is that it legitimately, you have to get reservations way in advance because they're only open for 3 hours. And this is a little insider tip from somebody that worked in the food service as a chef. Typically, a turnover of a table, which is what we call from the time someone sits to the time they leave, a typical turnover is an hour. So you think about how many seats you have in that restaurant. If you're only open for 3 hours and each table is only turned over every hour, you're turning those tables over every 3 hours. You're never going to get a walk-in. I can pretty much guarantee you're never going to get a walk-in. But with that being said, they have some of the best food you will ever find. It's the most upscale French cuisine you can find. One of my favorite dishes that they have here, it's basically a black sea bass. And black sea bass is one of my favorite fishes that you could ever get. Chilean sea bass as well. You knew that.
Yeah.
But black sea bass is similar to Chilean in flavor.
Okay.
But this one here, they actually take potato slices and they make a scale on top of the fish.
Oh, I think you told me about this.
And then they bake it. So the fish
Yeah.
is baked with potatoes on top, and it looks like the scale. They serve it with this rosemary sauce.
Yeah.
It's $42, but well worth every single
Yeah.
penny. It is so good. And they have a bunch of other cool stuff too. The one thing that I like is that they have a lot of prefix menus. And if you're not familiar with prefix menus, it basically just means that if you don't really want to, worry about what you want to eat, you go in and pay for this prefix menu and you get all the different courses. You get a first, a second course, a third course, and then a dessert. And they pick it all for you. The only thing about this is that you have to be slightly adventurous because you cannot change the menu at all.
Oh.
So, like, if they say there's going to be, like, squid or escargot, you're stuck. You're getting squid or escargot. You can't ask for anything different. So, there is a lot of cool things with that as well, which I love. But
real quick, because I feel like we've spent a lot of time on this restaurant, in this pavilion. It's not this one. It's the other. It's the Chef's de Paris where Remy comes. You can get a visit from Remy, right? With the cheese cart?
I think.
Yeah.
I know
it's this one.
It might be.
I think it's the other one.
Yeah, I'm not too familiar with that one.
Well, I wanted to let people know that there's an opportunity to meet a cast member or meet Remy.
Yeah, I know you can meet Remy in France. I've personally never seen him, so I think it is inside that restaurant.
Yeah, it's in Chef's de Paris.
I'll look that up and we'll put something like that in the blog. But let's head over to Japan because I don't want to spend any more time in France because I love Japan. The Japan Pavilion, culturally, I love the Japanese culture. It is like my top bucket list item to travel to. So that's something that I'm hoping to do in real life. But for now, I get my Japanese fix over at Epcot World Showcase, which I love. And the first thing that you always see is that beautiful, tower pagoda. When you're walking up. And the cool thing about it is that Disney also brings a lot of history in, and that is actually a replica of a 7th century temple, which is cool. And the best thing about it is the drummers.
Oh, so cool.
Throughout the day, almost probably on the hour. Like, they usually drum almost every hour or so. They have basically, like, traditional, Japanese ceremonial drummers, which is just a really, really cool show to watch.
It's so cool.
I have a video somewhere in my phone that I can probably post up about it. I have to go dig and find it, but it is just a really cool thing, and it's just a beautiful building.
It's one of those things that, like, you stop and you think, okay, well, I'll give this a second, and then, like, we'll keep moving on, and then we end up standing there for the entire show.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's so cool. They just, like, entrance you. It's really cool.
And then basically across the way from that is they have a replica building of the coordination and ceremonial halls of Japan's Imperial Palace. Japan. I told you, we can't pronounce things today. But the cool thing is that my favorite store out of all World Showcase is on the bottom floor of this.
Oh, yeah, this is our favorite place.
And it's the Michikoshi. It's the Michikoshi department store, which actually is the oldest department store in the world. And this department store, the interesting thing is last time we were there, they had plaques on the wall, which I've missed every time we've been there.
Yeah, we didn't see them until this last time.
So last time we were there, I've actually read the plaques regarding, regarding this department store. And this department store goes back 3 centuries.
Wow.
I mean, I didn't even think, like...
Before that was, like, a thing.
What's I'm saying? You think about department stores in America, and people think, like, early 20s, that's, like, when it was, like, the huge, huge thing. They had their first department store 3 centuries ago, which is really cool. So the store is named after that in honor of how old it is. But the store itself is so cool.
Well, here's also another thing. If you've never been to Epcot, when we say stores, we are not talking about the shops that are inside of, like, Magic Kingdom or even Disneyland, these stores have authentic products from these countries. So in France, they're not selling like little Remy dolls and all Disney Disney products. It's real products from France. It's like you stepped into like a little merchant off the side of the street. So this store in Japan is not, again,
it's all
plush
imported
toys.
goods.
It's all stuff from Japan.
Yeah.
And it's Japanese labeling, and there are bento boxes and a pearl opening ceremony, and there are chopsticks galore, and you can even buy food products. So it's not Shop Disney.
No. And the reason that I knew it was really authentic was I remember the first time, my sister Katie that did the podcast last week, when they lived in Japan, we actually went to Epcot around the same time they were living in Japan.
Yeah.
And I remember taking pictures of stuff in there and showing her, and I was like, this is stuff that you sent us. Because she used to send us care packages from Japan's dollar store all the time.
A couple things they had sent us that I was like, I know, I love these, and I stocked up on them. I probably paid like 6 times as much.
Oh, absolutely.
In Epcot
but
that I would have.
It was
I can't go to Japan to the 100 yen store, so.
And that was the thing, is that it was really cool because then I sent pictures to my sister, and she was like, yeah, that's exactly what we can get here. So it was really cool to see things that you traditionally cannot get anywhere else outside of Japan. They bring it to Disney, which is really cool.
Let people know, because if you haven't been to Epcot, you might be thinking we're talking about the shops. I think there's a difference between like the shops in Disney, and then these are like the stores.
Yeah, these are not your traditional souvenir Disney stuff.
Yeah.
This is like your authentic stuff. And by the way, if you do want an authentic thing from Japan that you can't get anywhere other than Epcot or Japan, is the shrimp chips.
Yeah.
It sounds the most awkward or like the most disgusting thing in the world, but it's not. It's like a little like Cheeto.
They're like little.
That was like Cheetos.
Yeah, I guess Cheetos.
And it was like shrimp flavored, which you would think would be disgusting, but it was amazing. My nephew like loved them in Japan. He ate them all the time. But the store itself is really cool. They got anything for everybody. You know, they have like bonsai trees.
Yeah, they have
the little
so
Zen
many.
gardens. They have traditional kabuki stuff. They have traditional like I think there was even like ninja stuff. They have like a section of like swords and samurai swords and
2 of my favorite things from in that store. At the back, there's a sake bar, so you can do sake tasting.
Yes.
And the pearl opening ceremonies. So if you don't know what that is, you pay, it's less than $20. You pay for this pearl or an oyster, and they open it. They do a ceremony. They open it in front of you, and there's like a screen that they're doing it in front of you, but it projects on the screen for other people. Because you see, like, people stop and like watch, because this is a several minute ceremony, and people are doing it all day long. But so you pay less than $20. You get this oyster. They open it up. You're guaranteed a pearl, like an actual cultured pearl. And then you get to pick your setting. So that's where it costs money, because you can pick a gold setting. It might be several $100s.
Yeah.
You could do a necklace, a ring, a keychain, a bookmark. You can do whatever you want. But those are really fun to watch. We always stop and sit there for a second, because it's a big thing. There's 2, I don't even know what they call them, but 2 like ceremony masters that sit there and open the pearl, or they open the oysters and get the pearls. And they weigh it and they size it, and the color means something. It's really cool.
And it's really cool to see like a lot of it's a big attraction for little kids.
Yeah, and it's something you don't even have to spend the money on, because someone else can buy the oyster and the pearl, and it's fun for you to watch them do it. So
yeah, and there's a lot of times when we go in there, we'll see them doing it. We'll just stop and watch them open up one of them just to see what it is.
It's really
cool.
fun. It's a thing. If you ask anybody like where are the pearl opening ceremonies, they'll show you where they are.
My favorite
Those
part.
are my 2 favorite things about the store.
My favorite part of the whole store is the chopsticks.
And the chopstick wall.
The chopstick wall. A little like kind of hidden tidbit about me is I love collecting chopsticks. I just love them. So every time we go there, I usually have to pick up 2 or 3 pair of chopsticks. Yeah. And they have just all these different really cool colors. Some of them are even like hand painted too. And I bought a hand painted pair one year, and I looked at the detail later on. It was amazing. Yeah. To just see the detail in the artwork they do.
We always have fun picking out which pairs we're going to buy and stuff. So.
And then I think I would agree with Casey that the sake bar is probably one of my other favorite things, because it's just a really, like, every pavilion you go into, they have some sort of like tasting type thing. I think the only one that doesn't is Morocco, I believe. I've never seen anything in Morocco, and I don't know if it's a cultural thing or not, but they don't have any like tasting rooms of alcohol. Yeah. But the sake room is just a really cool, unique tasting room.
Yeah. And just like I had mentioned, in France, you can do wine tasting. Since we're talking about those two. Yeah. This one has a sake bar, and you can do sake tasting. This one has France has a wine store, and you can do wine tastings. Now, you do pay for both. It's a small fee.
But it's worth it.
But it's totally worth it, because if you think about it, the Food and Wine Festival, we paid $7 for that little French wine, and it was, what, an ounce?
It was like
ounces?
2 sips.
Maybe not even. No, it was like a thimble.
Yeah,
it wasn't like an ounce of wine for $7.
Yeah.
So if you pay for the wine tasting, you get 6 tasters. It's totally worth it.
I would definitely recommend if you love sake, do it. If you've never tried sake, I would say venture out and do it, because sake is not just like a grain alcohol. Well, we went out to dinner last night to a sushi restaurant, and we looked at the different type of sakes, and there's like pear flavored sake, like all these different.
I had a pear and an orange flavored sake.
And the thing is that's the thing about sake, is that there's so many different things. There's different flavors, sweetnesses. It's kind of like normal alcohol, is that there's different levels of it. So give it a try.
We're not here for a sake lesson.
Well,
I just wanted to
I'm
tell them that there was a sake bar.
I'm giving a sake lesson.
Okay, so right outside of the store, I'm moving on. Right outside of the store, there is almost like a museum, I would say. And they have, I think it changes out every once in a while.
It does. The current exhibit that's in there now is
wasn't it was like the culture of cute, or
yes,
yeah.
Wow, how'd you remember that?
Because it's called kawaii.
Yeah, kawaii. Yeah, it's called the Japanese cute culture.
Yeah, the cute culture. So that's like the artist that's featured now, and it's all about kawaii stuff. They had there's this really, really cool sculpture in the middle of the museum, and by museum it's a room. It's not huge. It doesn't take you all day. You could if you wanted to, but it's a room. It's a nice large room that has all these
glass cases
around it. Yeah, but there's this sculpture in the middle of the room, and it's shaped like a kawaii girl. And I don't know if you know what that is, but it's like the Japanese, almost like schoolgirl with the high pigtails and usually like a little skirt, and usually throwing up peace signs. It's kind of like a kawaii girl. That's what it is. Yeah. But so the sculpture was made out of all of these toys and figurines that they did like a resin to hold it all together. So you look at her,
really cool.
And from a distance, she's just this really pretty Japanese like schoolgirl, and then you get up close, and she's made out of all these tiny little pony figurines and little hamster figurines and plastic crap. But it's all, I don't know, it's just really cool.
And the artist and designer is Sebastian Masuda.
There you go.
Is the
I would not have remembered that. I
artist.
Just remembered the culture of cute culture.
I'm actually pretty impressed that you just remembered the culture of cute, because I didn't remember what it was called.
I was very impressed with the exhibit. I thought it was really neat.
The one cool thing about this room, though, and you know me when I talk about different places at Disney where you can kind of escape the craziness.
Yes. Yeah.
This is one of those places where you can escape the craziness, because not many people go in here because it's not appealing to most people. They're not there to look at this.
Yeah.
But one, I love different type of culture, so I love learning about that.
Yeah.
It's the same thing over in Norway. There's a couple places over there that not many people go into, that it's a great place to escape the craziness.
Yeah.
So definitely check it out.
I'd recommend it.
Food wise in Disney or in Japan.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. I love Japanese food.
Japanese food is Eric's favorite.
Oh, it is. It's by far my favorite. I'll eat sushi every single day if I have the opportunity to.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's healthy, but
you want to start with that little place up that little walkway?
Yes, because that place is amazing. And that is a quick service place. So if you have quick service credits, you can use it there.
And if you're not familiar with the dining packages, if you don't have quick service, you can still eat there. It's
yes,
like
you can.
You have to have a dining package to eat at this restaurant.
But that is called Kasua Grill.
Yes.
And Kasua Grill is a quick service restaurant. It's one of those places you kind of walk, and the cool thing too, it's not like a normal quick service set. It's just like you walk up to like a booth.
No,
it's a beautiful like Japanese designed building up on top of like this little hill and a garden.
It is so pretty.
So you either can take like the steps up to it, or you could actually take a pathway and actually walk through a garden that has like koi fish and koi ponds, which is really cool. But once you get up there, you basically walk up, you order what you want from the quick service counter, and then you go sit down. And I think last time we went there, I think we just did like some...
we did several of the rolls.
Yeah, I know we did the spicy tuna roll, which I thought was amazing. I love spicy.
I don't remember what it was, but we got sushi rolls, and they were delicious.
Edamame, which you can't really screw that up.
And
but
we got like Kieran, I think.
Yes, yeah, that's where I got my Kieran
Sapporo.
beer. No, I got Kieran.
Okay.
Kieran's my beer. If
Yeah.
I do Japanese beer, it's Kieran.
Yeah.
But they do sell Japanese beers, wines, and they also do sakis there as well. But one of the unique things they have there is they call it a Japanese pizza. And we didn't order it because it just didn't really kind of weird. But it's a Japanese pizza with vegetables, sauce, and it's topping like a Japanese pancake. So
wait, they had that at that restaurant last night.
Did they?
Yeah, I thought that was so weird.
Oh, I didn't realize that. I didn't even look at the menu.
Because I was kind of intrigued by it. Interesting. Sorry, guys. Not that you need to care about that. But
well, anyways, they have.
I guess it's a traditional Japanese
I guess so.
dish.
They have some unique options there, and they also have some like simple things too, like panko breaded chicken sandwich. So if you're not into the adventurous stuff, you can still get yourself a chicken sandwich. But it's really cool.
Okay,
right
so just down, right outside of that.
Right outside that is probably one of the coolest drink carts.
It's my favorite. It's my favorite.
You could ever
Tokyo
get.
Sunset. That's my favorite drink.
And
it's delicious.
And the
and that's the picture I'll probably be sharing on social media this week.
And the girls,
favorite drink.
The girls that work that booth, and the only reason I say girls is because every time I've been there, I've only seen women working the booth. But the girls that work that booth, they are like some of the sweetest, nicest people like you will ever meet. I've never had a bad experience there, and they have some of the great. They have beers, but they're mixed flavored.
Yeah, they're
drinks.
like beer cocktails.
Yeah,
almost.
Beer cocktails. I think one of them is like a sake like slush type thing.
Yeah.
There's just some really cool stuff there. So it's if you're looking for a quick drink, especially on a hot day, it's perfect.
Yeah.
But if you do want to sit down too, you can go upstairs, and they have two different restaurants. They have Tokyo Dining, which offers like traditional Japanese cuisine, kind of mixed with like a little bit modern innovation.
Yeah.
And then they also have your teppanydo, which is your traditional hibachi type thing. Well, actually,
I was going to say.
So my nephew corrects me every time I call a hibachi American hibachi. Because that's actually it's
Japan,
not in Japan. Our version of like hibachi here, like benihana, it's not what the Japanese consider.
Hibachi's not hibachi, is what Eric's trying to say.
Like the flat top grilling is actually called teppanydo. Or teppanyaki or teppanydo. Yeah. So this restaurant is called teppanydo.
Yeah.
Which is the traditional style of that flat top griddle cooking. So, but it's if you're looking for like a really cool place, and there's some really cool views of the fireworks show. If you can get dinner up at one of these places, Tokyo Dining or Teppanydo, because they got windows facing the Showcase Lagoon, so you can get some really awesome firework views as well.
Yeah.
So what do you have any other like tips that you would like want people to know about Japan?
Okay, this is a really silly tip, but if it's a really hot day, you can get a fan inside of Japan, the little department store. I'm not kidding you. No,
it's true.
Like a hand fan for like $4, and they'll even write your name in Japanese on it, which I think is cool.
Yeah.
For free. But no, that's like my lame tip for the day. No, one little, not a tip, but something just really cool to think about, or that I've kind of noticed, is that Japan is one of the most open of all of the countries in World Showcase. Like, think about how thin and elongated Italy is, and how thin Germany is, and then like look in your head and think about how big and open Japan is. I don't know. I wonder if there's something to that, or if it was just that's how the design lent itself. I don't know, but it's cool.
Yeah.
So Japan is like
Feels more
now
open.
if you just are feeling a little clustered and a little, claustrophobic, go over to Japan because you have much more open space. Yeah. So,
my biggest tips for you, and this is really not a tip, it's just more of a tidbit, is Disney did announce that they are planning on doing a brand new signature table service restaurant coming to the Japan Pavilion. There isn't any date on it, but they are planning on bringing a whole new signature restaurant. And as they call it, the restaurant is going to get their inspiration from the natural beauty of Japan, but will also add in the balance of authentic cultural experiences. So I'm excited to try some or look at that too. But probably my biggest tip is that if you want one of the coolest pictures of Spaceship Earth anywhere in World Showcase, it's in Japan, and I'm not sure what it's called, so I don't want to call it the wrong thing, but right off of World Showcase water is they have the little ceremonial, I guess you can say, little ceremonial arch.
Yeah.
You can get an amazing picture opportunity of
that
Spaceship
arch
Earth.
Has a name. It has a name.
It does, and I'm drawing
a
giant blank.
I'm gonna get it because I know it.
Well, she's going to figure it out, hopefully in the next couple minutes, because we're
2 seconds.
We're rounding out.
2 seconds, guys.
But yeah, I always try to get a good picture from there, and not even just of myself with it. It's just a really cool photo op to take the picture of the arch with Spaceship Earth in the background, which is really cool. But my other tip too is take your time and walk around the Japan Pavilion, because there is so many really cool little hidden things that you can find, the little koi pond garden, that little museum in the back. There's just so many cool things. Don't just run through it.
No.
Experience the culture, because that's the whole point of World Showcase. The whole point of World Showcase is, and I hate to say this to people, it's not to go and drink around the world and get completely plastered. The whole point of World Showcase and the original concept of it was to bring cultures to Disney for us to experience other people's culture. And they work so hard in bringing their culture, to us. Just take some time and enjoy it.
Well, that's why if you do Food and Wine Festival, or if you are you want to go with the intentions of drinking around the world, spend the first day immersing yourself in the culture of all of these places, and then the next day go get yourself some drinks. Anyways, it's called the Red Torii or Torii Bridge.
Oh, okay. So there is
It's a gate.
It's a gate.
Sorry.
Okay.
It's
So
Torii, Torii.
okay.
Torii or
So
Torii.
it's considered a gate.
Yeah.
Okay. That's cool.
But it is that I agree with you. That's a great place for a photo.
It's a great photo op.
Yeah.
But like I said, my last final advice is just enjoy these countries and really explore them. There's so much beauty in them. But that's it.
It's a cheap way to go around the world. Okay, I'm done. I'm done with
But
my
anyways,
comments.
we are out of time for this episode. But please join us next week, because I'm so excited, because we are going to be talking Captain Marvel. We're going to be talking Infinity War, and we're going to be looking at Endgame, which is coming up in May.
I can't wait.
The trailer they put out is just amazing, and I just cannot wait to see all these movies and finally see how Infinity War comes full circle. So thank you so much for listening. We will see you next week. Check us out on all of our social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Check us out on iTunes, iHeartRadio, and Spotify, and at explorethemouse.com, where you can find everything about our podcast, including our blogs. You guys have a great day. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.